So not good enough, says Ralph Hasenhüttl about Southampton. However, it is a winning start for Ryan Mason as the interim manager at 29.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story. Story's unbelievable. Good luck to him, man. Whatever happens. He looks calm enough, doesn't he? Doesn't seem to be someone that's flustered about it. But yeah, in the end, I just thought that Tottenham were very good. You heard the manager there, Ralph Hasenhüttl, talking about the mistakes at the end. They run out of steam a bit, but I thought Tottenham's quality in the end came through. You could see it with, especially with Gareth Bale's goal. You know, some of the touches that he had in a game like that was just very, very good, just awesome.
Yeah, well, we'll come back and we'll look at that again because it was a fantastic goal from Gareth Bale. But we haven't really reflected on the fact, because everything else that's been going on, haven't really reflected on the fact that Tottenham sacked Jose Mourinho 6 days before the Carabao Cup final against Manchester City. They've gone into it, or they are going into it, yes, off the back of a win, but with a 29-year-old man in charge who had previously been head of player development at Tottenham. Yeah. This is extraordinary situation.
It just shows you the lack of confidence that Daniel Levy, Joe Lewis, who make the decisions there, have in Jose Mourinho. You know, he wasn't brought to the football club to win the Carabao Cup. Obviously, they want him to see him win that, bouncing around Wembley and in their eyes, 8th in the league at the time, or 7th in the league, celebrating failure. You know, wouldn't want that. He's brought to the football club, Jose Mourinho, to take him back to the top 4. And to be honest, they were 5 points off it. You know, I know they're 2 points off it now. The other teams have got a game in hand. They're running out of games. I think it was the manner of how they've been playing. Didn't look like they were going to turn their fortunes around, and they felt that Ryan Mason is a better option. You know, it's quite damning on Jose Mourinho. I think we've seen the last of Jose in the Premier League. I think he's been fantastic, box office for the Premier League, but I think that's the end of him.
But none of the information that they're operating on in terms of making that decision is brand new information. So why make it now? Why is it to stop him potentially being able to say, well, I won a trophy?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I just think that they put in a one-off game against Man City is going to be very difficult, whoever takes charge. I don't think it rests on who's in the dugout. I think it rests on whether Harry Kane's fit or not. If there's no Harry Kane, they won't win that game, in my opinion. I think it will be very, very difficult.
And that's a day-by-day process as well.
As it is with Kevin De Bruyne for Man City, so he's important to them as well. So, look, if Harry's fit, I'll give him a chance. I always give him a chance when Harry Kane, Son and Gareth Bale. We saw him last night, Gareth Bale. If you've got a three-pronged attack like that, it's one of the best in world football. It hasn't proved to be that way because Jose didn't fancy Gareth Bale, you know, for whatever reason, limited game time. But we saw last night what he can actually do. He's a match winner.
Can I take Els just on the Jose Mourinho was 6, like before the final? It does seem really strange to sack him then.
But the timing thing is the most interesting thing about this, because
do you think there's contractual stuff involved there?
I don't think so. I was at the Tottenham game against Everton, and I've watched a lot of Spurs this season, and the lack of anything, attacking intent, direction, surety in themselves, defensive organisation, any of that was just not there. And you could see the players, you can tell in body language and stuff sometimes that they just weren't happy. There was growing discontent from the senior players. Harry Kane's injury. Harry Kane was keeping Spurs within a shot of qualifying for the top 4 or qualifying for a European place. Without his goals in the last few months, they would have been toast. So that injury also escalated things, because now it was like, we don't have his goals to sort of cover us. We're going to need to reintegrate Gareth Bale, Dele Alli, use up the talent in the squad, reinvigorate the squad. But Jose Mourinho winning the trophy makes it harder to dispense of him at the end of the season, because you will have some supporters saying, he won us a trophy. He did better than Maurizio Pochettino did in the job, which is very silly. But you would have had that. And there would have been things in the contract, bonuses, payment structures related to the delivery of a trophy. Also, great time to bury the news when the whole world is focused on your involvement in Super League plans. And I don't know what was worse for Jose, that he got sacked, or that he got sacked and no one even blinked about it, because everyone was concentrating on the bigger news. Honestly, by the end of Monday, I'd forgotten that he'd gone.
Yeah.
But I also think leading into the final, finishing off the season, for them to try and salvage it and do so in a positive way, in a fresh way, players being encouraged. I like Ryan Mason on a personal level. I think, his life was on the line. He's worked through a lot. He's so committed to Tottenham, to player development. He's done so much work with the academy. Maurizio Pochettino speaks so highly of him. So I think it's just a nice way to enhance the mood, the feeling, the goodwill around the place. Also, though, let's not forget that Levy was under a lot of pressure for taking Tottenham into that Super League. Fans were rioting, and it was a way to appease them, a small way.
Yeah, Daniel Levy at the heart of this. I can't imagine the sort of 48, 72 hours that he must have had from the announcement of Spurs being involved in this group that intended to form the Super League to the collapse of the Super League and all the Premier League clubs withdrawing from the initial agreement. And in the middle of all of that, you sack your manager. Not only sack your manager, but sack your manager who is Jose Mourinho, one of the highest profile men in football. You know him. What? I mean, is that kind of adrenaline something that he welcomes?
Well, one thing Daniel doesn't do, and Joe Lewis is beat around the bush when they make a decision. If they felt it was right to sack him, they would have their own reasons. They would do it. I remember when he first came to the football club, I was a player there. It was a week before an FA Cup semi-final at Old Trafford against Arsenal, none less. And they decided it was a good idea to sack George Graham. Now, if you're ever going to win a one-off game against a team that are better than you, as Arsenal was, it would be George Graham in charge. And he brought in Glenn Hoddle. And we changed everything in 1 week to try and take on that game. It was a very difficult task. But the point I'm making is, he felt it was right at the time, for whatever reason, and he makes that decision. He doesn't hesitate. He makes decisions, and I think overall, since he's been in that football club, it's chalk and cheese to where he's took that football club to where he's going to leave it eventually. He's done a magnificent job.
So Ryan Mason, along with Chris Powell and Ledley King, sort of taking over the team at the moment. There's a real Spurs deep connection in there amongst those group of players. Ryan Mason, former teammate of Gareth Bale's, Harry Kane's friend as well. There's a real connection between them. But do we think that that's a long-term plan for them, or do you suspect they've got someone lined up?
It depends how well he does, Ryan, I would think. I think that if there's someone lined up, I wouldn't say. I think if there was someone lined up, they would be brought in, unless someone's going to be out of contract in the summer. I think Ryan's the best one they've got available there. He's a great lad. He was a teammate of Harry Kane. They were rivals when I was running the academy. I brought this boy through. You know, he's a fantastic footballer, great football man, loves the club, and he's got ability. You know, he's a student of the game now. His career, unfortunately, and his life nearly ended, but his career ended. And he's thrown himself into the coaching side. And I wish him well, you know, he's got a big job. But I spoke to him the other morning and I said, this is nothing like fighting for your life. It's a walk in the park. To manage Tottenham, lying on that life support, fighting for your life, there's nothing like that.
Yeah, Chelsea West Ham could open things up a lot. That's a huge game.
Absolutely,
in terms of the top four. Should we look at Gareth Bale's goal?
Yeah, it's a beautiful goal. It's what's good about this guy. I saw it in live time as well. I was thinking he should have just squared it to him anyway. But that touch there, and then that, he's made it look very easy. I've seen him do it a couple of times now, score a couple of goals like that one. That touch there on the stretch and that finish. It's not easy. I saw him score a goal against Burnley with his touch. His touch, look at the way he manipulates the ball to get it in the position that he needs to get it into that height of the goal. It's just brilliant. He said after the game, when they said, well, as soon as you got the ball, did you know what you were going to do? And he said, yeah, I know everybody slides in, put everything down. Yeah. And just went for the... And I think that it's brilliant insight from a player of that calibre, a player who is a big game player. You know, to be able to, in the moment, knowing that when you get to that stage, box, people are diving in because they are last ditch, and when you are good enough and experienced enough to know that he's going to dive in here, that's when the top players come to the fore and you see him score a goal that he made it look so easy.
McCarthy saves that. If he takes it and he rushes it, McCarthy saves it. He waits for Bednarek to come round. He blocks his eye line. He waits for him. He waits for the defender to come there and he bends it around him. I mean, it's quality. It's instinctive. It's world class. That's why he played in a white shirt. Not of Tottenham, of Real Madrid.
Yeah, Big 6 and Big 12 and all that kind of thing. But look, he has been involved in 11 goals in his last 11 Tottenham appearances. And he is, as you say, a big game player. It's not vintage and it's not necessarily consistent Gareth Bale at the moment.
Well, you couldn't expect it to. I mean, I think there's mitigating circumstances towards that. And you have to ask Jose why he didn't play him on a regular basis. Because if he was one of my players, having his history and the love for the football club and that drive of bringing him back, that euphoric, it was the nature of like, oh, Gareth's coming back, the King's back, let's see what he can do. And all of a sudden he's sitting on the bench next to the manager. That's no good. Let him loose. And I think now, between now and the end of the season, I think Ryan Mason will play him in every game.
And on Sunday?
He'll definitely play. 100%. 100% he plays on Sunday. Son plays on Sunday and Harry Kane will play if he's fit.
Yeah.
But I mean, Bale can play and Son can play. If you haven't got, I think Harry's so important. If you haven't got Harry Kane, I think the top 4 chances are gone, and I don't think they'll win the game on Sunday.
Let's take a look at the remaining fixtures for Tottenham between now and the end of the season. I know you're saying you're not ruling them out of finishing inside the top 4, and certainly that, as I said, that game between Chelsea and West Ham is going to have a massive bearing on that. But once they get past that cup final, how does that run-in look to you?
Good. I think they're going to have to win every game. I really believe that. I think the Chelsea's and the Liverpool.
It could come down to that game against Leicester. Yeah.
I think the big game tonight. I think Leicester win tonight, and I think it gives them that breathing space. And they're buoyed by a cup final at the end of the season as well. Now, whether they're going to have their eye on that, I think they fell out of the Champions League on the last day last season. They won't want to do it again. They would have learnt from that. The Leeds game away is obviously a difficult game because of the way Bielsa's side play. Now, if I was going to pick a manager for Tottenham next season, it would be Bielsa. I would go for him. I would think he's a big manager. He plays with that. Everyone would love him at the football club. I'm not sure Daniel Levy would.
Well, but then I don't know if he is. Is he particularly difficult to work with?
No idea. But Daniel likes communication with his managers, and I'm not sure they can communicate too well.
Yeah, potentially. And what do you think for Spurs this season? Can they finish top 4? Can they win the Carabao Cup?
They're going to have to be on their their counter-attacking best against Manchester City. I think that it's going to be a tough game. It really does depend on if Harry Kane's playing, and they get the energy and the fact that they might get the freedom. We might see a little different Tottenham than we saw in the first half. But you can't write them off in a one-off game, especially if Harry Kane's playing and if how fit he is, and with the fact that Gareth Bale will be playing as well, and he's a big game player. Son, a difficult player to deal with, on the counter-attack, so you can't write them out of it. But apart from that game, they'd have to literally win every game. Teams will have to lose, like Leicester would have to lose tonight and stuff like that. But it's going to be tough. I don't think they make the top 4.
Do you know, listening to Tottenham, you think, well, they're in the Carabao Cup final, but they're up against Manchester City. It's going to be tough. They're not in the best position in terms of finishing in the top 4, although they could still do it. It just all feeds in to one of all these reasons why the clubs were so interested in forming this breakaway league, where you look at Tottenham now, you think you're trying to plan for next season, and you think, I don't know what the budget's going to be, I don't know what our income's going to be, and it's that inconsistency and that unpredictability that they're trying to iron out. But it's still there.
Yes,
it's still there.
It's what makes it great. You have to earn
it.
Being in that top. Do you know how hard it is to finish in this top 4 with the kind of resources teams have, when sides like Leicester and West Ham are refusing to back down, when they're improving, when they're sharpening recruitment. Leicester especially, such a well-run club, incredibly well coached. It's just getting more difficult to finish in the top 4, which makes it amazing. It's what we want. We want a strong league. Yeah. A strong league benefits everybody. I don't think Tottenham make top 4. I always think Man City are the favourites regardless of who they're playing. Yet in a one-off game, you've got to back yourself, especially when there's little else riding on the rest of the season. At least you've got that thing, that moment of joy that you can go and then build on.
I think Kels, I think it was a great point Melissa makes there of David Moyes you have to put into that category as well, and Brendan Rodgers. It's not all about spending fortunes. You know, years ago it was your best players, they won the league. You know, Jose's managed a lot of teams where they've spent fortunes and they're going to be up there, they're going to be fighting for the top. Now, these teams shouldn't be where, if Liverpool are out of it and Chelsea and Tottenham are out of it, Leicester shouldn't be in that argument, and nor should West Ham. But it's the coaching, it's the due diligence, what Moyes is doing. He was there at the Bridge the other night. That's an old school manager. Going to watch the game himself. When do you see that now, especially in this pandemic? You don't see it at all. You don't see managers go and watch the opposition, but he knew this was going to be a big game up against them, so he's gone doing his homework. I've got loads of time for that. A manager who wasn't loved by the fans, he's won them over now, and you'd have to say, with the amount of games they got left, got to give him a chance.
Leicester may be a good example of one of those owners who gets the balance right between investment and bringing the community along with him as well, potentially.